Welcome back to Wake Up Cricket powered by Pavilion Picks. India one step away from the semi-final place. West Indies lose the match yesterday. India win the match yesterday, and to
Zimbabwe lose the match yesterday.
and
Oh, and the first
yeah,
morning
so
inning. My bad.
so does West Indies. And to talk about everything that's happened in cricket yesterday, and to talk about how West Indies lost and India won, hit that subscribe button, and we'll also get into things. Get us to 500 subscribers to begin with, and then 500,000. But yeah, before we get into all of that, hit that subscribe button.
Well, we're still undecided as to what we want the plea to be, whether that is 500 subscribers for the time being or 1,000 subscribers. You let us know in the comment section. Moving on to the stories and starting with India's victory against Zimbabwe. India smashed 256 to knock out Zimbabwe and set up West Indies showdown. India stormed into a virtual quarterfinal against West Indies with a comprehensive 72-run victory over Zimbabwe after piling up a massive 256 of 4, the second highest total in World Cup as far as the T20 version is concerned. Abhishek Sharma struck his maiden World Cup 50 with a fluent 55, while Hardik Pandya powered his way to 50 as India's revamped batting order fired collectively. Six batters faced between 15 and 30 balls, striking at rates from 158.33 to 275 and launching 17 sixes, India's most in a single T20 World Cup innings. Zimbabwe's decision to bowl first was based on early assistance for seamers, but India's batters quickly overrode those conditions with relentless hitting. In reply, Zimbabwe were restricted to 184 for 6. Despite a valiant unbeaten 97 from Brian Bennett, Arshdeep Singh led the bowling effort with 3 for 24 as India maintained control throughout. Drop catches once again hurt Zimbabwe, who crashed out of the semis contention after conceding 254 in the previous game and now 256, ending their campaign on a tough note.
Now, for an Indian fan, this was a really good game from a batting perspective because, especially coming into this very game, there were a lot of question marks on not only our batters at the top, but also the batting order itself. Of course, we've spoken multiple times about Abhishek Sharma, about Ishan Kishan, but even beyond that, how Tilak Verma was playing spin was something that was heavily criticized. And so, because of the fact that Rinku Singh unfortunately had to miss out because of some family emergency, it meant that we had a chance to bring in yet another player. And in the form of Sanju Samson, and especially deciding that they wanted to play him at the top of the order, seemed to be something that the Gambhir management finally got correct, because it ensured that there was firstly a right hand batter at the top of the innings. But the very interestingly, the Sanju Samson and Abhishek Sharma partnership just averages about 22. But the interesting part is, usually if you pick up any of their matches, you will see that one of them carries on and one of them gets out early. And that's exactly what happened once again, where Sanju Samson gave the impetus early on is what was required at the moment. So Abhishek Sharma could just get his eye in. And then later on, Abhishek was able to get a much needed half century, his first for the tournament, which almost feels alien to say.
True.
But from there, India, they managed 80 for 1 in the power play, which is, of course, their best power play of the World Cup. But their partnership of 48 opening the innings was also the best because before today, 22, I think, was the best stand that India had. So on that front, I think India has got it spot on. And also the added fact that they were ready to play Tilak Verma against pace, ensuring that they didn't want to expose him to spin. And he came really, really good.
Yeah, Tilak Verma in the last 5 months, this is the first time he's batting below or number 6 and below. And for him to come out all guns blazing, for him to bat the way he did, wasn't all that surprising because he does really well in the last 5 overs of a T20 innings. And the numbers back it up. He backed it up yesterday. So good on him.
Next up, Markram Masterclass. That's an alliteration, sounds rhythmical, and also sounds like music to the ears of Indian cricket fans. Markram Masterclass keeps South Africa perfect as West Indies fall short. Aiden Markram's unbeaten 82 powered South Africa to a commanding 9-wicket win over West Indies, preserving their perfect record and reinforcing their status as genuine T20 World Cup title contenders. Chasing 177, the Proteas made light work of the target, sealing victory with 23 balls to spare in a clash between the tournament's last two unbeaten sides. Markram stitched together a 95-run opening stand with Quinton de Kock, South Africa's highest of the tournament, dismantling any momentum West Indies had salvaged late in their innings. De Kock struck 47 off 24 before Rickleton's unbeaten 45 ensured there were no late hiccups. All six West Indies bowlers conceded at more than 10 runs and over as South Africa's top order shifted gears effortlessly. Earlier, West Indies endured a dramatic collapse after being inserted on a tricky Ahmedabad surface, slumping to 83 for 7 inside 11 overs. Lungi Ngidi's 3 for 30 and Kagiso Rabada's 2 for 22 triggered the slide, with Corbin Bosch also claiming 2 wickets. A record 89-run 8th wicket stand between Jason Holder and Romario Shepherd, who hammered a maiden T20 I-50 with an unbeaten 52, revived the innings and lifted them to 176 for 8. Despite setting a new T20 World Cup record for sixes in a single edition, West Indies' boundary-heavy approach could not match South Africa's clinical chase. With one Super 8 fixture remaining against India, their semi-final hopes now hang by a thread, while South Africa march on with growing belief.
If you guys weren't listening already, it was such a dramatic end to West Indies' first innings, because they were 83 for 7 and then they were 172 for 8. They lost the next wicket when they were 172, which is insane when you think about it, because at that point it almost seemed like West Indies was just going to crumble out with a score of below 100 or around 100. And for them to score 176 in the end was massive. Except South Africa just came out all guns blazing, and like Megha said, they made light work of it. And interestingly, Kagiso Rabada until now hasn't had the best of the T20 World Cups. He hasn't really been a standout T20 bowler in the recent times, except yesterday he had the match of the match, exactly the kind of match he needed before heading into the semi-final, because not only was he the only bowler from the South African team to have an economy of less than 6, he also got 2 wickets. But yeah, so all round South Africa would be so happy. It almost seems like they are the favorites to win the World Cup because of how strong they have been, how clinical they have been, the fact that they've been strong throughout, but also the fact that there's always one person standing up in each and every department. And even with the batting, the fact that they looked in no trouble from ball one. Even when they lost 1 or 2 wickets, it almost seemed like the next batter would just come in and continue the momentum that the previous batter had set. Yeah, it seemed, oh my God, I didn't realize I spoke for so long.
Time up.
Good morning, King Kohli K18. And talking about strength and a display of strength, we move on to the next story. Auqib Nabi's 4-over blitz rocks Karnataka as Mayank stands tall in Ranji final. Auqib Nabi turned the 25-26 Ranji Trophy Final on its head with a devastating burst on a placid surface, leaving Karnataka reeling despite a defiant unbeaten 130 from Mayank Agarwal. After Jammu and Kashmir piled up a monumental 584, Nabi's relentless accuracy and late movement sliced through Karnataka's famed top order to reduce them to 57 for 4 in a dramatic spell that may well define the final. Nabi struck gold on either side of lunch, removing KL Rahul via DRS, then pricing out Karun Nair and R. Smaran in successive overs. His ability to generate movement of a deck offering little assistance underscored his growing stature. Earlier, Prasidh Krishna had completed a 5-wicket haul as Jammu and Kashmir added 57 runs to their overnight total, finishing with 584 built around centuries and half-centuries from Pundir, Hassan, Dogra and Vadhavan. With the final effectively reduced to a one-inning shootout, Karnataka needed resilience. Agarwal, stripped of captaincy earlier this season, responded with one of his grittiest knocks, registering his 21st first-class 100. He first stitched a vital 105-run stand with Shreyas Gopal, then found crucial support from rookie keeper Kritik Krishna. The pair survived 20.4 tense overs late in the day to take Karnataka to 220 for 5 at stumps, still trailing by 364 runs. As play resumes, Karnataka face a mountainous task with only the lower order to come. On a surface still holding firm and time already lost in the match, the first innings lead could prove decisive. For now, though, it's Nabi who has seized the spotlight, hammering loudly on the doors of national selection.
All right, so let's put it out there, right? We are Karnataka fans, but I think the development in this final is so interesting for so many angles, right? Because you have Auqib Nabi, who's been basically banging the door. He's done everything that he possibly can to get that India A selection for starters. And now, like, if from here he's not going to get selected, then there's clearly greater forces at play, because he's not set a single foot wrong, especially on a pitch that where Jammu and Kashmir were able to get to 500 plus, and it didn't seem like a deck that had too much for any kinds of bowlers to work with. On that deck, for Auqib Nabi to turn up with the kind of performance that he had, in fact, at one point he was on a hat trick as well, and just the dismissals show the kind of control and the kind of accuracy that he's bowled with. For him to get those subtle movements in seam, just getting the ball to nip around that little bit and hitting that consistent line and length where batters are not sure whether to go on the front foot or the back foot. Because if you look at a bunch of dismissals, it's just batters who are squared up or stranded on the crease, don't know what to do. And this is the story that has been for Auqib Nabi throughout the season. Now, from Karnataka's point of view, this match is going to be extremely tough to save. They've lost half their side. They are on 220. For them to come out and to be able to save this game in itself on first innings is going to be huge. If they can pull it off, this becomes yet another historical game.
Cheer up, guys. It's all fine. In the meanwhile, Auqib Nabi, with over 100 wickets in this season and the previous season combined, phenomenal run of form.
True.
Moving on, New Zealand eye semi spot as England seek perfect tune-up. New Zealand return to Khetirama, knowing victory over England will seal a fourth semi-final appearance in the last five T20 World Cups. Already through, England have little riding on the result beyond momentum, but Pakistan will be watching closely, needing England to win and then hoping to overturn a sizable net run rate deficit against Sri Lanka. England's campaign has been scrappy but effective, highlighted by their chaotic two wickets win over Pakistan. While Joss Butler's lean run continues to raise eyebrows, Harry Brook's promotion to number three has been a masterstroke. His maiden T20 100 of just 50 balls against Pakistan has likely secured that slot for the foreseeable future. New Zealand, meanwhile, look every bit the tournament specialists again. Despite injuries, including the loss of Michael Bracewell, they have won four of the five completed matches. Their spin depth proved decisive against Sri Lanka, with Mitchell Santner and Kole McConchie steering a comeback. Though questions linger over middle order time in the middle, the Kiwis remain clinical, collective, and firmly in control of their semi-finals destiny.
New Zealand, I mean, we'll talk about England too, but like New Zealand look every part, like Megha said, but it's very interesting because if you look at stats, no player really stands out. Because if you look at the top five, top six, or top seven run getters or wicket takers, you don't see any New Zealand players. Yet they're in a position where they're playing the semi-final against England, where they're in a position where they qualify to the semi-final. And it's New Zealand always does this, right? And every World Cup, you see them have team performances time and again. You see one player stand out in every single match. You see different players stand out in every single match. And they go through the semi-final. They possibly go through to the final. And then it's a whole different story for them. And that's something we'll talk about later on. But it's the fact that they always find themselves in these positions where they are in a position to play semi-final and all of that. And that's what they have. Again, they've done for themselves again, which Mitchell Santner, Rachin Ravindra, so many players standing out. And then you have England, where you're praying for a player to stand out. You're hoping someone stands out. You're hoping that Joss Butler gets his form back again. It's been a while since he has, but to be fair, it's also his first World Cup where he hasn't. But you would hope as an England fan that he finds some sort of a form, opening with Phil Salt. And Harry Brook, now that he's batting at number three, scored that 100 at number three, that he continues to score a lot of runs, and with bowlers stepping up.
I think it's also interesting because yesterday, like I was just sizing up the teams, and something that very interestingly is a common trend amongst all of these teams that have done well and are looking likely for the semi-finals is that they all have extremely great batting depth. In fact, what has happened for a lot of these teams, West Indies, for example, yesterday, the top order basically close out so quickly, and then it was the middle order and the lower middle order mostly that were getting them the runs. Even in the New Zealand game, that is what we saw, where it was Santner who eventually got them out of trouble later on. So even with England, in fact, that's the case, and that's something you should watch out for.
What else do you watch out for? Imran Tahir's return to Dolphins for One Day Cup title defense. Imran Tahir will rejoin the Dolphins for their CSA One Day Cup title defense, marking a return to the side he represented for nearly a decade. The 46-year-old leg spinner is set to feature in Friday's season opener against the Warriors. His comeback comes at a crucial juncture with 7 Dolphin players away on South Africa duty for the upcoming T20I Tour of New Zealand. Head coach Quinton Trent welcomed the move, pointing to Tahir's experience and leadership as key assets in a squad that will lean heavily on senior figures during the early rounds. JJ Smuts is also back in the fold after turning out for Italy at the T20 World Cup, providing further depth to a side led by Prenilan Subrayan. With the domestic 50 overs competition seen as vital preparation ahead of the 2027 World Cup in South Africa, the Dolphins remain focused on maintaining consistency and mounting a strong defense despite the temporary player drain.
Now, there's a reason that we chose this news, right? It's not something that might be the biggest news of the day, but it's just sort of a tribute that we'd like to give to Imran Tahir, because Here's someone who has been an extremely late bloomer. In fact, he started off playing international cricket more towards his 30s. That's when he gained prominence for South Africa. And for him now, at the age of 46, to be playing this tournament is something definitely worth applauding. We talk so much about MS Dhoni and the fact that he's going to be, 44, and he's still playing the IPL. And MS Dhoni plays the IPL a little differently, right? Like you can see that age has caught up with him in a lot of senses. He prefers to come lower down the batting order. But with Imran Tahir, it just feels like there's this constant motivation and fitness levels at 46 to be able to come out and play a 50-over tournament is definitely not a joke. And so basically, it's just that. I think just a shout out to Imran Tahir and what he's been able to do. Also for the fact that he's ready to come and do this because he knows that the kind of experience he has is going to be so helpful for the players who are playing domestically for this team. And it actually takes me back to an anecdote where he was spending time with Riyan Parag when he had no reason to during the mid IPL season to teach Riyan Parag a couple of variations. And that's just the kind of character he is, where he's more than happy to pass on the kind of knowledge he has. And it's just nice because cricket needs a lot of people like him to be able to continue the legacies and take the sport forward in different ways.
And whenever you look at Imran Tahir play the sport, you just know that he's so passionate about it. Every wicket is celebrated with all his heart. And every time he fields, every time he's talking to a player, every time he's in the field of cricket, you just know like there's so much love for the game. And that's exactly why he's doing this. This isn't the... What is that league where the retired players play?
Oh, Legends.
Right. This is not the Legends League where he's coming back and having fun. He's playing serious domestic cricket, which is insane when you think about it at the age of 46. So, yeah, just really happy for him. The fact that he's still going on, he's still going at it, he's still fit enough to play a 50-over format. Just very happy for him.
Well, what else are we happy about? Tilak Verma striking form back. And what do we owe him? Probably an apology. So the form link will be generated shortly by the JB boys.
So yeah, Tilak Verma, the way he came out batting yesterday was shocking to a lot of people, but it shouldn't be because like we talked about earlier, it's the fact that he can do this in the last 5 overs. But yeah, he's been in terrible form leading up. Terrible is a stretch, but he hasn't been in the best of form in terms of striking big leading up to yesterday's game. He's been struggling against spinners quite a bit. We have made an entire video on this. But what he did yesterday is something a lot of people were surprised by. But to be fair, you shouldn't be surprised by it because interestingly, we have a stat for you. In the last 5 overs of a T20 innings, Tilak Verma in the last 1 year leading up to the World Cup is the 13th highest run scorer, right? But in being the 13th highest run scorer, he has the highest average in the last 5 overs. He has an average of 35 and the second highest strike rate amongst the top 13 run scorers. He strikes at 181. So this is why Tilak Verma bats slow in the middle phase of T20 innings because he knows what he can do in the last 5 overs. Except unfortunately for him, it doesn't last long enough. He doesn't last until the last 5 overs for him to be able to do what he did yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just glad that the Indian team were happy to be able to make that experiment. Not even an experiment. I think it's just what was the call of the hour because of the fact that Sanju comes in and then you have Surya. You don't want to mess up too many batting positions. And so it was Tilak who was always going to move to the lower order. And like even in terms of like the pace matchup that he has, he strikes at 235 odd against left arm medium. He strikes at 140 plus against right arm medium. So we've always known the numbers say that he has the ability to absolutely take on pace. And also at a very interesting length, right? Because if you see yesterday's game, it was not the case that the seamers were bowling a lot of slot balls. There was a lot of balls that were banged into the pitch. And Tilak Verma was more than happy to swing his bat right through the line of the ball. Also, it helped that the pitch was a little better for the Indians to bat on generally. But I think Tilak, for him to come out, score 44 of 16 and stitch that partnership with Hardik Pandya, like you can't ask for anything more, especially when you're moving the position of a batter who, all things said and done, has still been getting runs. Like he's still been getting starts each and every time. Because there's also a lot of discourse on the fact that Surya Kumar Yadav and the management wanted him to play like this. So maybe that's a discussion to have, that maybe you don't need him to play like this, especially when you know that he can explode in this manner. And yeah, that's basically it. I think what will be interesting is if India continue to have this very combination in the games moving forward.
So that's been what's happened yesterday and what's happened in cricket in the last 24 hours. But there's a very interesting game coming up.
I wish I knew what the game was.
The game is New Zealand and England. And Meha, do you have interesting insights for people to look forward to the game?
You know what I want
Oh,
to address over here is England's campaign at this World Cup and the parallels that can be found from 2022. Now they huffed and puffed to the semi-finals, and from there on they peaked, as they say, at the
that is
right
true.
time. And
Yeah.
it looks very identical this time around as well. For all their struggles in Test and ODI format, this is one format where they played really well. In fact, blanked Sri Lanka 3-0 at home in Sri Lanka. So they are riding on that momentum. And on the other hand, New Zealand last time around couldn't make it out of the group stage, but are so consistent otherwise, and have been so in the in this decade more so in T20 eyes. And they too are in a decent run of form, like you mentioned, that the different players stepping up at different points. Mitchell Santner has led them really well. In fact, last year as
Yeah,
well.
that is
Uh,
true.
was in a phenomenal run of form. So all in all, makes for an interesting clash and something that we are really looking forward to.
Look at that. This is exactly why you join us to have insights and to also know what's happened in the cricketing world. Join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. like always at Wake Up Cricket at powered by Pavilion Picks and get us to 500 subscribers if you haven't already reached that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.